It's a brand new day, so come on and play in a world that's waiting for you. We're about to begin, so come on in.
Good morning, class. Today we're going to be learning about evolution. So, can anyone tell me what evolution is? Bruh. Timothy?
The Wilson Evolution basketball?
No! Wrong answer. Okay, class, let's have a little history lesson. Timothy, settle down. Cuvier proved extinction to be indeed true. He was a French paleontologist, which gave him the idea to compare fossils with living organisms. James Hutton was a Scottish naturalist that became a founder of modern-day geology. James knew of our environment and how it changes over time. Charles Lyell was also a geologist. He provided proof to Hutton's theory. Charles Lyell furthered in James Hutton's theory and was known for leading the geologists of his time. Jean-Baptiste Lamarck. Jean offered the mechanism of the theory of acquired characteristics. Jean proposed that evolutionary change came from two principles. 1, use and disuse, and 2, the inheritance of acquired characteristics. There's Carl Linnaeus. Carl was a physician. He was the father of taxonomy, as we know, which is the system we use to classify living organisms. And finally, Charles Darwin. Charles Darwin actually proposed the theory of evolution. He thought all organisms don't only change physically, but in behavior as well. Over time, they change not only in their phenotype, but also with their genotype. And we're going to get a little bit more into that later. So what is evolution? In all the animals and organisms on Earth, evolution is the adaptation of living things over a course in time. For example, a certain species genetically changing in accordance with its own environment. And this brings me into what is known as the survival of the fittest. Survival of the fittest is the persistent survival of a certain animal species within the response to the environment over time. That species will remain and be able to reproduce. For example, in the classroom, students are essentially competing with each other. Depending on the student's ability to sustain themselves in the classroom, it will determine the remarks they receive throughout the whole semester. Now, you must think, Mr. Baller, isn't evolution just adaptation? Mr. Baller, what are you looking at? Timothy? Evolution is actually the change and continuation of that change over time. However, adaptation is an important component of evolution, so it's very important. Adaptation means to adjust or change. For example, you move from Los Angeles to Toronto and you want to adapt to your ways of commuting. In Los Angeles, you'd have to get a car. In Toronto, you'd have to advance and adjust your ways of commuting. Through public transit, it's faster and more efficient, which might be very tough for someone who's from LA. Now, with evolution, there are genetic mutations. Genetic mutations are changes in the organism's genome, resulting in different phenotypes. There are 3 types of mutations: neutral, harmful, and beneficial. The organism does not go through any change in which it benefits, nor does it have any disadvantages. For example, a hairless rat. It doesn't affect the rat in any way. Harmful mutation, a mutation that can instead keep up the organism's offspring, actually harms it. Family genes can be harmful mutations. In hereditary cases, for example, a mother who suffers from progressive hearing, that child may not have perfect hearing when she or he is born, and that is where the genetic mutation takes place. And lastly, beneficial mutation. Beneficial mutation provides an advantage or increase to reproductive success. For example, antibiotics. Well, when you're sick and you want to treat your symptoms only using antibiotics, eventually the bacteria in your body will become immune to those antibiotics, leaving you having to find another source of medication in order to treat your sickness. One example of beneficial mutation would be, over the course of time, humans. Their bones have become more dense and more stronger over time. Humans over time, their bones have become more dense, allowing them to grow taller and be more stronger. That is one mutation. Now I have a video here to show you guys on evolution. Watch it.